My name is Niels Oosthuizen. I'm a senior sales engineer for Jubaili Brothers in South Africa. I've got a degree in electrical engineering, and I will be running through the financing options today that you've got available for solar solutions. Although this presentation might be specific to the South African market, I'm sure that the same terms would be used in the different countries with the same options available, just maybe with different institutions. So starting off with the survey, we were going to do a quick introduction for Jubaili as well as Huawei. So starting off, we're first going to do the Jubaili Brothers introduction. On this first slide, you can see that Jubaili Bros was established in 1977. On this timeline below, you can see the development of the company, or as the company expanded to the different regions. Most prominently is the UAE in 1992, South African branch specifically in 2016. And then in 2017, the solar division was established as part of our 40 years anniversary in Jubaili Bros. And then since 2017, we've opened up branches in Pakistan, Kenya, and then there's expansion plan for 2022 as well. On this world map, you can just see the global logistics reach that Jubaili has got. On each flag that you see, Jubaili has got representation in the country, either a factory where we assemble generators, or we've got a sales office. Like, for instance, in South Africa, we've got a sales office for CKD components on generators, as well as the solar division. At Jubaili Brothers Solars, we've got 6 key pillars for supporting our EPC customers. The very first pillar would be product supply. Most basic explanation would just be that we supply you the boxes or the components that you require, whether it be the CKD components, a full generator, or as we are focusing now on renewable energy, we will be focusing on solar supplies, whether it's your inverters, your solar panels, or your mounting structures. The second pillar for support is training. Training would be instances like this, where we've got a webinar weekly on different topics, where we run through daily issues that you might encounter. We've also got offline training material available in PDF format if you would like to learn more about the product. And then these webinars are also uploaded onto our social media. So you will find it on YouTube as well. If you're unable to attend one of these webinars on a specific time, then you can at least watch it on your own convenient time. Then the third pillar for support would be engineering support. We've got a team of dedicated and qualified engineers that can assist you with your design reviews and perhaps assist with bill of materials or bill of quantities. So please, if you're one of our customers, please feel free to send us your designs. We can have a look at it to see if we can maybe tweak it to be more efficient, or how we can optimize it for best performance. Then the fourth pillar would be leads. Jubaili Bros is not an EPC by itself. So we only supply you with the products that you need, or maybe with the expertise on the knowledge that we have built up. So sometimes we do have end customers that approach Jubaili directly. So we will then refer those customers to one of our loyal EPCs for assistance. Then the fifth pillar would be referral to finance. So referral to finance, we're going to run through finance options specifically today on this webinar. But important thing to remember that is Jubaili is not a bank, so we do not finance these projects ourselves. But then we do have relationships that we have built up with various other companies or institutions that we can then refer you to. So if you have a project and your customer does not have the finance to start off this project immediately, as we all know that solar has got quite high upfront cost, so you can just be in contact with us and we can refer you to the correct financing house that might be the best suitable for your need. Then the sixth pillar of support would be after-sale support. So in Jubaili, we pride ourselves in not just selling you a product and then leaving you hanging. We would like to be part of the full process from beginning to end. And then even after we do the sale, we will assist you with after-sale support on maintenance, or if you have warranty claims, we will assist you with the warranty support as well. So yes, that was the 6 key pillars of support that we have. But then again, today we will be focusing on the finance. So why did Jubaili partner with Huawei? So first of all, we are a value-added partner and a certified service partner for Huawei. The Huawei inverters are very safe and reliable with up to 25 years reliability. We get higher yields out of the Huawei inverters, and Huawei inverters offers you a smart operation and maintenance, which actually reduces or lowers your operational expenses. So that's just some key features on why Jubaili partnered with Huawei. On the next few slides, we're going to run into an introduction of Huawei as a company. So Huawei Digital Power Solution is your best partner in a carbon neutral movement. So digital power is a specific division of Huawei that focuses on power solutions for data centers. Then we've got smart PV as part of the digital power section. But then, of course, we all know Huawei as being a leading cellular network provider all across the world. So Huawei has got Huawei has got 195,000 employees active in more than 170 countries or regions. They're ranked number 44 on the Fortune Global 500, and they're ranked number 2 in research and development. So 54.8% of Huawei's employees are dedicated to research and development. That means of the 195,000, at least 100,000 is dedicated to research and development. The vision and mission for Huawei is to bring digital to every person, home, and organization for a fully connected, intelligent world. So if we look at the below graph, it's just a timeline of Huawei's South African development milestones. So Huawei South Africa was founded in 1998. Another key one was in 2017, they built an open lab and launched a new office park. 2019, they launched the first 5G network in Africa. And then in 2022, they've opened a Huawei South Africa Innovation Center. So the Innovation Center is based in Midrand. So if you're one of our APCs and you would like to visit one of these centers to see what Huawei has got to offer, please reach out to us. We can organize an appointment or make an appointment and then take you through the Innovation Center. Okay, digital power is the cornerstone of building a digital world. As I've said, the digital power is a section of the Huawei company. It consists of site power facility, DC facility for data centers, smart PV for solar. Then they've got an Empower range for EVs, and then they've got modular power supplies that's also available. Again, on the digital power, we're focusing on the smart PV, which is the renewable energy sector that we are active in. On this next slide, you can see we've got a graph of string solution has been a mainstream in the PV industry. So the gray section used to be the central inverters, with the blue being the string solutions. Huawei inverters are string solution based. And then in 2016, string solution only had 44% of the market. But in 2022, string solution inverters has taken 80% of market capacity. And then Huawei has, as of the end of June 2021, they've shipped more than 175 gigawatt of inverters. So Huawei has also been a leading brand for global inverter shipments for the past 6 years. So Huawei is also offering a full solution on the PV side. We've got residential, commercial, industrial, as well as utility. On residential, we've got battery storage solutions available. Huawei has also now recently launched at Intersolar. They've launched the commercial and industrial battery storage, which is a 200 kilowatt hour solution. That solution is only going to be available at Q4 of this year. And then they've also got a utility solution available, both the inverters as well as the energy storage. But we'll run through the product range now quickly. Okay, moving on, we've got the product range from Huawei. I'm just quickly going to run through the product range. We do have specific webinars for each range of inverters or for a specific topic. So if you need more information, feel free to ask, but then also have a look out for the dedicated webinars on that specific segment that you are interested in. On the residential inverters, we've got 2 ranges available. Please note at the end of each range, there's either a denomination L1 or M1. The L1 is specifically the single phase inverters, and the M1 is the 3-phase inverters. And then you can just see the different sizes that's available. In the single phase, you've got all the way from a 2 kilowatt up to a 6 kilowatt unit. And then on the three phase, you've got units available from 3 kilowatt up to 10 kilowatt. So just some brief specifications that on both the single and three phase inverters, you've got two MPPTs with 2 inputs each, thus meaning you can have 4 strings connected to the inverter without a combiner box. Both inverters has got built-in arc fault circuit interruption, and they're compatible with Huawei optimizers. The Huawei optimizers listed here is a 450 watt, but Huawei has recently released a 600 watt unit that's compatible with the higher powered modules that we have available today. Then on the residential side, Huawei has got its own battery system. It's called the Luna. It's a lithium-ion battery. The advantage of this battery system is that each battery will be controlled individually, and an older battery or a battery that might not be as good as a newer one will not affect overall performance. So if one battery might be performing at 80%, the other two can still remain on 100%. So the batteries has got a modular design, anything from a 5 kilowatt up to 30 kilowatt. You've got one control module for such a battery bank, and then each battery is rated at 5 kilowatt. So you have 15 kilowatt for one stack, but then you can parallel 2 stacks to a single inverter, giving you the 30 kilowatt hour. Then, as I've mentioned, it supports new and old battery module mixed use. So you can start off with just a single battery or 2 batteries. Then after a few years, you can add more batteries, and the newer batteries will not be affected by the older batteries. Then also important to note is that the Huawei batteries is high voltage batteries. It operates in the range of 480 volts DC to 600 volt DCs. So you can have a reduced cable size when connecting up the batteries. Then quick introduction on the CNI, commercial and industrial product range. There's the first entry level for commercial industrial is between 12 and 20 kilowatt. There's the M0, which was the previous version, and then the M2. Please note that the M2 supports the optimizers and the M0 not. So when you inquire about these inverters, please make sure that your supplier has got the latest version available. The M2, which supports the optimizers, the arc fault interruption, the 0 volt module level shutdown. That's only available with the optimizer. The optimizer is what gives you the 0 volt module level voltage shutdown. Then all the newest range of inverters has got the built-in PID. So it would be the M2 on this entry level range. Then on the medium range on commercial industrial, you've got inverters ranging from 29.9, 33 or 36 kilowatt. That used to be the M0. That was the older range. It was updated to the M3 range, which was then rated at 30, 36 or 40 kilowatt. Then on the higher spec side of the commercial industrial range, you've got a 50 or 60 kilowatt M0. There's not yet been a revision on that one. But then on 100 kTL or 100 kilowatt, you've got 2 versions available. You've got an M1 and an M1 Pro. The difference being the M1 Pro has got built-in AFCI. In South Africa specifically, we are focusing on the M1 Pro version. We do not even sell the normal M1 version, as we see this AFCI as a very important function to have. Then moving on to the Huawei Utility solution. The utility solution, we're looking at projects that's greater than 1 megawatt, or the CNI range used to be anything in the region from 20 kilowatt up to 100 kilowatt, or then from 100 kilowatt to 1 megawatt. On the utility side, looking at more than 1 megawatt, it's more economical to focus on a 200 kTL inverter. A note to remember is that a 200 kTL inverter has got a medium voltage output. So we do get it a lot where customers would like to use a 200 kTL inverter on smaller projects, but then because of the medium voltage output, you require a transformer station, and then that can quickly escalate the costs of your whole system. So please bear in mind this 200 kTL option is actually only viable economically on bigger projects, more than 1 megawatt. In my personal experience, I would say not less than 3 megawatts. So if you have 3 megawatts or more, then you can go for the 200 kTL inverter. Then on the utility side, Huawei can supply of everything. We've got a 200 kTL on the inverter sizes. We've got our smart energy storage solution, which is the Luna 2000, which is a 2 megawatt hour battery solution. It's fitted in a 20-foot container with its own cooling. Then we have the smart PCS, which is a power control system, which controls the battery charging and discharging. It's also rated at 200 kilowatt. Then the smart transformer station. This is what is required for you to step up or step down the voltage to whatever your requirement or your connection point is on the grid. It's typically available in a 3 MVA, 6 MVA, and 9 MVA configuration, with output voltages differing from 11 kilovolts up to 33 kilovolts. Then the Smart Accu 2000D, that's the communication device for your utility solution. And then Huawei has got its own Fusion PV management system or your own monitoring system. So that gives you the full solution available from Huawei on a utility project. So this next slide is focusing more on the battery system. So it says the Smart String ESS, controllability of power electronics to resolve inconsistencies and uncertainties in lithium batteries, reducing your LCOS by 20%. So this 2 megawatt hour container system is made up of different battery packs, and then each rack is individually controlled. It's a modular design, so if you have a problem with one specific battery module, you can just pull out that specific battery module and replace it. So by utilizing the smart battery system with each battery being able, you're simplifying your operation and maintenance, and then that's also saving you time and money. So on the next slide, we're just looking at the smart microgrid solution from Huawei. So based on all the components that we've discussed now, you can have your PV array, smart PV inverter feeding your transformer station. Then you have your whole battery solution, diesel generators, and your loads. So this is just a representation of the small microgrid that can be established using Huawei products only. So on the next one, we're going to focus on the Huawei inverter's performance and compatibility. We're just going to run through these slides quickly, as we said. So first of all is high reliability. So Huawei has identified a few features or components that tends to fail a lot on components, some of them being fuses, LCD displays, or buttons. We as humans are prone to push buttons, or we would like to push buttons and scroll through menus, even though we do not even know what we're doing. We just like going through it. So a button is something that typically fails. So that's why Huawei has removed it. There's no LCD screen. So on the Huawei inverter, you've just got LED indicators. LED indicator for your DC side, showing if everything is okay on your array. Then you've got the AC LED indicating if grid is available or not, or if the grid is unstable. You've got a communication LED indicating whether your communication to the Huawei monitoring platform is okay, or if you've got a problem with internet connectivity. And then lastly, you just have an alarm LED, which indicates if it's a minor or a major fault. But then the whole system is designed to work from your phone, so you can control everything either from your cell phone, or if you want, you can also log in via a laptop or a computer. So everything is online, available for your monitoring 24/7. So to increase reliability, Huawei has used its experience in the telecoms sector, and they've combined it with the solar or the PV section. So they've got natural cooling. This natural cooling allows for the inverter to work with less fans, decreasing noise, and then you also have less failures on fans. So this is not a complete fanless solution. So there are fans in the bigger units like 100 kTL or 200 kTL. The smaller units are fanless, but the bigger units do have fans. So please just remember that point. There are fans, but it's just there are a lot less, but they are still very silent compared to the competitors. On the next slide, we're just looking at the overall performance. So on a 20 kTL inverter range, which is the small sector for commercial industrial, we have efficiency of 98.3. On the medium section for CNI, we're at 98.9. On the 100 kilowatt, which is the largest section of commercial industrial, we have 98.9. And then the 200 kTL inverter is typically used in the utility scenarios. That's got a 99% efficiency. So if you compare our 20 kTL 98.3, it's 0.3% better than the closest competitor. But then if you look at over a 20-year period or lifetime for such an inverter, that 3% can make a big difference on the amount of kilowatt hours produced by the system. So higher yields, how is the higher yields possible on Huawei inverters? So the Huawei inverters has got multiple MPPTs, and then you also have 2 strings per MPPT. So if we focus specifically on 100 kTL, which has got 10 inputs or 10 MPPTs, if you have a certain section of your installation that's affected by shading, only that one MPPT will be influenced and it will have no influence on the rest. If you're looking at a small scale CNI section, up to, I think it's the 36 and the 40 kilowatt inverters, they are even compatible with optimizers. And then you can actually put optimizers on that one string specifically only. So if you do use Huawei optimizers, it's not necessary to optimize the complete system. You can only optimize a single string that's being affected by shading. But then please also bear in mind that the optimizers are not compatible with the 100 kTL or 200 kTL inverters. They're only limited up to the 40 kTL on free phase. Moving on to the next slide, Huawei inverters are compatible with high power power modules. So we all know that the latest modules of 600 watt or even going up from 590 watt, they've got a higher amperage rating than the smaller modules. But then on a Huawei, our MPPT is rated at 26 amp, meaning it's compatible with the high-powered modules. The Huawei inverters are also compatible with bifacial PV panels. Again, we have proven more than 3% higher yields in comparison in a bifacial plant. This is just typical examples of plants. This first one is in Xihong, China, where it was 4.14% greater yields on a smart PV versus a central. And this one was in Baisheng, also in China, 3% higher yields. Next slide, Huawei inverters, they're compatible in floating solar situations. The inverter itself is rated IP66, which means it is protected against strong jets of water. It's got built-in surge protection type 2 on both AC and DC. It's got anti-PID features safely built in. So all of this assists you on a floating solar PV plant. Some of the safety features included as a standard in Huawei inverters. This is just a list of common problems that the inverter can pick up. So excessively low PV string parallel resistance, excessive high PV string series resistance. I'm not going to go through all of them. Current mismatch in PV string, abnormal PV current output, excessive low irradiance, low PV string power. So for all of these safety features or errors that can pick up, the inverter will specify what is fault, and it will also specify a possible solution for you. This is all standard available in the manual or on the app. It will be given to you. But if you do have any problems with any inverter where it gives you a specific error code which you're unsure about, please send it through to us and then we will see how we can assist you on that. Then the next feature is the AFCI. What is it? It's arc fault circuit interruption. On this slide, we're just focusing specific on the standard. So the standard used for AFCI is the UL1699B standard, which says that arc fault circuit interruption should be able to detect up to a distance of 80 meters, but Huawei is able to detect up to 200 meters. Then again, the standard is specified at 16 amp. The Huawei can detect even on a 26 amp circuit. So with the AFCI feature built in, if the inverter detects a fault, it will immediately shut down. I think it's less than 1 second. The inverter will shut down to protect itself, and it will also give you an indication of where the fault is. If it's on the bigger inverters, 100 kTL, 200 kTL, it will specify what string it is. If it's a smaller inverter, the 30 to 40 kTL M3, and you have used optimizers, it can even pinpoint the exact module for you where there might be a problem with arcing. And then arcing can be caused by something as simple as a loose connection on your system. It can be where you've got damaged on your PV cable, and your PV cable might be shorting to a cable tray or something. So it's all possibilities of AFCI, very simple possibilities, but it happens a lot in the real-time solutions out there. Then the next feature that's built into Huawei inverters is anti-PID. What is PID? It's potential induced degradation. What causes it? It's due to the potential difference as anhydronium flows from the glass plate into the semiconductor material, the solar cell, and affected cell performance. So high humidity and high temperatures and contamination can all contribute to PID effect. So most of the tier 1 panel manufacturers will specify that their panels are already anti-PID or they've got reduced PID effects on them. But still, even with those tier 1 modules, the PID effect still does occur. And then PID can reduce the output power of a PV module by up to 30%. So it's a very important feature that's available on the Huawei inverters that's going to assist you on getting more performance out of the inverters. Then moving on to the next slide, we've got the commissioning and operation and maintenance of the inverters. So as I've mentioned before, we've got fast and easy commissioning. So the commissioning is all done via simple steps on your cell phone, from basic settings to automatic device detection, up to where you connect it to a management system. The connection on the management systems, you've got options on WLAN where you've got an Ethernet cable plugged in. We've got a 4G option for you. So there's different options available for communications to the cloud system. And then plant registration is also easy. So it's easy to add new plants, add new devices. Again, all of this can easily be done from your cell phone, or if you prefer to, you can also do it from your laptop or computer. Important note is that initial commissioning on site, it's either better to plug your laptop in or to use your cell phone. But once initial commissioning is done, all of your other maintenance can be done remotely and away from site. So Huawei has got its own monitoring platform. It's called Fusion Solar. It's a smart PV management system. So you have a better experience because you have one app for all access to your procedures. Module auto mapping is done within 5 seconds. You've got energy visualization, so you've got different graphs or options on how to see your plants. You can look at the number of kilowatts it's produced. You can just look at the number of days it's been up. So you've got various graphs that you can also see. You can have a look at production per day, per week, per year. And then also you've got the smart operation and maintenance, where you've got one screen for management, where you can see what errors are on the system, possible solutions to fix those errors, or if it's a simple error, as easy as clearing it. And then another feature is our online smart IV curve diagnosis. So a big 100 megawatt plant, you can scan the whole plant for possible issues in 15 minutes, and you can all do it remotely. You don't need to be on site paying an engineer or a technician and have specialized equipment. All of this can be done remotely. So as I've mentioned before, you've got full visualization of the operation of the plant at any time. So this is just different screenshots of how the information can be displayed. You've got a single plant overview. You've got real-time energy flow showing your indication from what's being produced by your modules. If you're pulling any load from your batteries, or maybe you're charging your batteries, if you're using the grid, exporting to the grid, and whatever your load might be. And then you've got you can see your yield and revenue statistics. Like I said, you can see it per day, month, or even per year. Moving on to the next one. The next slide focuses specifically on IV curve diagnostics. The Huawei Smart IV Curve Diagnostics, it's an AI-powered solution, meaning that it scans your whole system and compares it to the normal state of how the graph should be, or it will then compare your graph to what we know as being a PID or a diode that's been short-circuited. So all of this is done automatically, and it will then specify you what the possible faults might be. So if we compare the online smart IV curve diagnostics to a conventional, so online diagnostics can take you 2 minutes, whereas the physical on-site might be a full day. IV curve diagnostics scans 100% string, Whereas on site, you might do sample scanning, if depending on what time you've got available and what the instructions was. And then you've got an auto diagnostic report for the smart IV curve diagnostics. And then on a manual thing, you still need to manually analyze the data and write up a report. So on the smart O&M, you definitely save a lot of time and money on man hours for testing a complete site. So now we're moving over to the financing options. Again, I would just like to stress the fact that Huawei is not Huawei, Jubilee is not a bank in itself. We do not do financing ourselves. We have built up a relationship with various institutions. So please approach us with the project that you've got in mind or that you need financing for, and then we can put you into direct contact with such a company. So in this webinar, we're just going to go through a few of the options that's available, just so that when you start negotiating either with customers or if you end up going to a discussion or a negotiation with a financing institution, you at least know some of the terms or know what to expect. So first of all is on the residential financial options. So in South Africa, you've got basically three options. You've got a private loan that you take from the bank. You've got a home loan also available through the bank, or you've got a rent-to-own option. So first of all, the private loan advantages is you've got flexible options on the components and installer, because what you do is you just apply to the bank requesting a certain amount, whether it's 100,000, 200 or 300,000. That all depends on your system size. But then the bank will give you that 200, 300,000 or the amount that you requested, and that's it. They're not going to specify what components you should use or who you should use to install. All they're interested in is that you just repay the monthly amount. The disadvantage with a private loan is higher interest rates, and then you as the owner is responsible for the maintenance. So typically on a private loan in South Africa, interest rates can vary between 15% to a maximum of 27% per annum. So that's very high. And then since you as the owner is responsible for maintenance, is that if you've got a problem on your system, you need to phone your installer or go back to your installer and request them to either come sort out the problem or come wash the panels or whatever it might be. So that's an additional cost that you need to take into account. The second option available again from the bank, which is a home loan. So if you are a property owner in South Africa, you can add your solar system to your bond or to your existing bond. The advantage of that is the interest rate is lower. So instead of having a 15 or a 27% interest rate, the interest rate can be as low as between 8 and 12%, all depending on your risk profile and what your interest rate has been assigned to on your home loan. The disadvantage is that the whole solar system is secured against your property. And again, you as owner is responsible for the maintenance. Then the third option is a rent-to-own. Rent-to-own, sorry guys, I just wanted to see, I saw some messages where audio wasn't clear, but I see it's better now. So again, I apologize for the interruption. So on a rent-to-own, so what is the advantage? You've got no upfront cost, the possibility to buy the system at any time with a fixed depreciation, and then the lessor is responsible for the maintenance. Disadvantage is you've got a fixed monthly installment independent on production. So typically in a scenario of a rent-to-own, the company or the lessor has got pre-specified systems where they would tell you, okay, we've got a 5 kilowatt system, we've got 3 kilowatts of PV panels, and then, you know, if you're lucky or depending on what you select, you can have battery options available as well. But then that system might not be the most optimally designed for your house or for your requirements. So it might be a 5 kilowatt system, you know, if your house is 100% north facing, but now in your case, the house might be east facing. So you've got reduced production from your PV panel. But instead of paying for the power that's being produced, you've got a fixed monthly payment. So that's one of the disadvantages. Then also what happens on the rent-to-own system is that you can pay the monthly fee for a certain amount of years. And then if you decide that you want to buy the system, then typically they will discount you about 10% of the system cost per year of operation. So instead of then paying the full 200,000 for it, you can after year one pay 180,000 for it, but then you've already paid your 12 months of installments on that system. So that's briefly what's available on the residential section. Then moving on to the next one, which is your commercial finance options. So on the commercial finance options, there's different types of agreements that can be put in place, but then also there's different companies. Most of our major banks in South Africa do offer commercial finance options, but then you've got private companies as well that do financing options on the solar systems. Some of our larger EPC solar companies, they even do financing themselves in-house, so you don't even have to get a third party involved, but it all depends on your EPC or what you would like. So the first option we're going to discuss on a commercial side is a PPA. So it's a power purchase agreement. The advantage is that you've got no upfront cost. You only pay for the kilowatt hours produced. And then typically in a PPA, you've got a lower rate of escalation than utilities. So in the PPA, both parties will come up with an agreed amount per kilowatt hour. So if, for instance, in South Africa, Eskom is charging you R2 per kilowatt hour, your PPA can charge you only R1.70. Then escalation typically in South Africa at this stage for energy costs is more than 12%. But then in your PPA, you can have escalations as less as 5%. The disadvantages of a PPA, it's a long-term agreement. Typically, it's between 10 and 20 years. Then transfer of ownership is only possible after the agreement. So on a PPA is again flexible. So depending on your requirements, you can set up the PPA in such a way that after the 20 years, there's automatic transfer of ownership, but then you would pay more for the kilowatt hours produced. Or you can pay less for the kilowatt hours produced annually as you go, but then there's a certain amount or a fixed amount that you need to pay afterwards when the PPA ends before there's a transfer of ownership. So that's just a quick advantage and disadvantage on the PPA. The second option is a lease agreement. So again, there's no upfront cost. The lessor is responsible for the operation and maintenance. There's a fixed monthly fee independent of production. Disadvantage is it's a long-term agreement, transfer of responsibility in case of sale of property, reduction in cost of equipment or power generation. So if I talk specifically about these two disadvantage points, transfer of responsibility. So if you're a property owner or a commercial property or a factory, as soon as you decide to sell the property, then there's a problem with the transfer of responsibility, since you were responsible for leasing the equipment, and then the next person that you sell it to might not want to enter into that same agreement that you had. Then there might be cost involved in either removing the system, or then cost involved as a penalty fee for you not breaking the contract, since it's a long-term agreement. Then the other disadvantage is reduction in cost of equipment or power generation. We all know that there's been a good decrease in PV panel pricing, or in the overall PV market, where there was a reduction in the inverter prices. I know recently there's been quite some increases with the cost of raw materials increasing, and then also the shipping delays or the transport costs that we had. Those are slight increases in the market. But if you look at the general technology of smart PV, the increase in technology, or as the technology has matured, the price of the technology itself might have decreased. It's only now that we've got some increases in raw materials, and then, as I said, the transport. So a PPA and a lease agreement is very similar to each other. The only difference between the two is that in a PPA, you pay for the kilowatt hours produced, but in a lease agreement, you've got a fixed payment. So in a lease agreement, it doesn't matter if the system produces 100 kilowatt hours or 200 kilowatt hours, you're still going to pay the same amount for it. Then the third option is a fixed roof rental. So fixed roof rental is not that common. It is maybe a section that can be more specifically applied to shopping centers. The advantage of this system would be, again, there's no upfront cost for the parties involved. Then it's a steady income stream for previously unused roof space. So if we look at at a shopping center, they can rent out their roof space for a fixed amount per month. So that's an income for them. And then another advantage of this system is that the company entering into the PPA does not necessarily need to be the same as the company leasing the rooftop. So the owner of the shopping center can lease its roof space, then having an income, but then the tenant of that shopping center enters into a PPA with the lessor of the system. So you can have independent parties involved in such a system. The disadvantages of a fixed roof rental, it is higher rates per kilowatt hour compared to a normal PPA. So in a fixed roof rental, the typical rate is close to utility rates. So there's not a big saving in that. The only advantage is that in cases like in South Africa, where we've got load shedding, depending on how the system is designed, it might still be able to operate when there's load shedding, so they can still have power when utility is unavailable. Another disadvantage is it's complex contracts with multiple parties involved. Again, if you've got a shopping center with 20 different tenants, you need to have agreements either with all 20 or you're only going to have partial agreements with some of them. But again, it's a complex structure with different parties involved. Then a fourth finance option available is straight bank financing. So it's similar to the residential section where you approach the bank for a loan. On the commercial section, it's just there's more options available. So bank financing on a commercial, it could be a straight normal private loan or a loan between the bank and the customer, or it can be financing specifically for renewable energy. Some banks offer solutions specifically for renewable energy where you have reduced interest rates, but then again, you are bound to certain conditions by the bank, where the bank will specify maybe some of the components that should be used, or the bank can specify how much you should reduce your carbon footprint. So bank financing, again, there are options available from straight financing or being a renewable energy financing specifically. Disadvantages with the bank, high interest rates on normal loans, and you've got a long-term contract. But if you look at renewable financing specifically, interest rate might be lower, but then you've got a disadvantage where the bank will start specifying either components or some other factors that should be taken into account, like your carbon footprint. Moving over to the next slide. So in South Africa, you've got some tax advantages available when you consider a solar plant. The first one would be SARS is tax benefit 12I. It's a tax allowance incentive designed for support of the greenfield and brownfield investments through support for both capital investment and training. The next one, solar PV is VAT deductible. So a VAT registered entity can deduct the VAT portion of the solar PV system. So I think typically in the bigger companies or scenarios, this is definitely a given. But in smaller companies that might not be VAT registered, that's not an advantage. But I think this VAT deductible is actually the most common one. Then we're talking about pay less carbon tax. As a low carbon energy source, solar PV will reduce the impact of the impending national carbon tax on businesses. So in South Africa, the government is considering carbon taxing companies. So it would be an incentive for you to reduce your carbon tax already, or your carbon footprint before the tax is actually put in place. Then there's the Green Tourism Incentive Program. Small and micro tourism businesses can qualify for up to 1 million in grants when they switch to renewable energy sources. So this is a variable that's done directly as part of this Green Tourism Incentive Program. So it's something that you need to apply for at SARS. Then another advantage is the depreciation allowance. So this one is actually the most common included with the VAT one. And that's that as from the 1st of January 2016, Section 12B. So Section 12B is the tax section of the Income Tax Act, was amended from a 3-year. So it used to be a 50, 30, 20%, and it's now accelerated depreciation allowance on renewable energy to quicker depreciation within 1 year. So you can now fully depreciate your solar system and then save up to 100% on year 1. This 100% limit is only based on systems smaller than 1 megawatt. So if your system is bigger than 1 megawatt, you will still be allowed to depreciate according to the 50, 30, 20 rule. So on Section 12B, which type of purchases options qualify? So if you do an outright cash purchase, credit sale agreement with multiple payments over an extended period, then all the major banks have recently extended their financial terms to between 84 and 120 months, 7 to 10 years. What costs are covered under Section 12B? Design and engineering, project planning and delivery, foundations and supporting structures, all solar equipment, racking, cables, wiring, and installation. So Section 12B is something that you should be discussing with your finance department in the company specific, or if you don't have your own finance department, whoever is your tax consultant or your consultant working with the finances, please remind them of Section 12B or inform them of Section 12B if they're not familiar with it. Like I said, you can have the tax saving on that where you can depreciate your asset within 1 year, depending on the size. So on this next slides, I'm actually just going to give you some more information on a company in South Africa called Candy. Candy is not actually specific to South Africa only. They've also got branches in India. Candy stands for C&I, commercial and industrial. So they finance projects in the commercial and industrial section. Why should you choose Candy? They've got more than 75 years experience. Global company, they've got Swiss roots with offices in 7 countries and 4 key regions. So they're active in Switzerland, India, South Africa, and the Netherlands. They've got sector diversity, proven success across 13 different industry sectors. They've got 34 installations. They only use tier 1 suppliers, and then tax redeemable upfront investment. So as part of the Candy proposal, if you do want to do financing through Candy, they will specify to you what taxes are available on that Section 12B. Then that tax redemption, you can either use it as a down payment on the system through Candy, or if you would like to use that tax incentive for something else, it can be specified. But this is something that will be handled specifically per project, per case. Again, we're just doing a brief introduction on Candy as we have partnered with them, worked with them before, and they're also supportive of Jubilee for the Huawei inverters. Product review of options that Candy offer. It's a PLIS, performance-linked installment sale. It replicates a PPA with ownership transfer up front. You've got a regular PPA agreement, it's power purchase agreement, owner transfer at the end of the term. Solar loan option available, a loan to procure solar PV. You've got a sale and lease back, and you've got roof rental. So that's the 5 options specifically available from Candy. Right, thank you very much, guys, for attending this webinar. In this next slide, we have a few email addresses for you to be in contact with us, whether it's either on product inquiries that you have for the Huawei inverters or even your panels. We've got the jbsolar.golf email address, my own email address in South Africa. Then specifically for Candy financing in South Africa, you can reach out to Michelle. But if you have any other financial requirements or financing option inquiries, please reach out to me and then we can discuss the options available to you specifically. Right, thank you very much, guys. Like I said, that's it. I'm going to move over now to the Q&A session so that we can just see what are some of the questions that's been answered or asked, and then we will answer them. First question from Lawrence. Considering the overall cost over a 10-year period, for example, which would be more cost effective between private loan and renting? Okay, private loan and renting. Private loan is all dependent on the interest rate, and that's dependent on your risk profile. In a typical scenario, a private loan would be a lot higher than renting it. The renting option, you've got options. You've got a rent-to-own option, and then you've got a solar lease option or even the PPA. So renting, you've got those 3 options available: PPA, the solar lease, or the roof rental. So my personal experience, the renting option might be the better option. But it's dependent on the type of loan you get from either the bank or private institution, and then it depends on your risk profile. But personal experience, I would say the renting would be the more cost-effective solution. But like I said, it's all dependent on other factors, on what agreements are in place. Next question again, Lawrence, will the slides be available after the session, please? Yes, these slides will be sent to you automatically to the email address that you used to register for this webinar. So it will be sent to you automatically. And that's it from the Q&A. So there was not a lot of questions for this session. But like I said, please feel free to reach out to us on the email addresses provided. I've just put them back on the screen again if you quickly want to take them down. It's always best to approach each case individually because there's various factors that's involved. So please reach out to us and then we will help you the best we can. Again, thanks very much for attending. I'm going to just put up an exit survey and then enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Thank you.